This is our first budget meeting, and I'm very proud to host it here in District 5. This is our senior center, our community center, and I'm so glad to have all of you here today participating in this process. It's really so important, and we really want your community, your input, your community input. We as council people really value what you have to say, and so we're glad to have this forum that the city hosted, and we'll take all your feedback, and it's going to be a very interesting process, and so we're glad to have you all here. So I'm the newly elected councilwoman for District 5, and so I would like to take... Thank you. My name is Shirley Gonzales, and I did want to take just a few minutes to introduce my staff. And they've been working very hard on my behalf and on your behalf. And most importantly, really, truly, they do all of the work. And they brought the snacks here today, and will be the one who will answer any questions that you have specifically regarding our district. And so I would just like to take a moment and please ask them to stand. They're wearing kind of peach-colored shirts. So my Chief of Staff, Choco Mesa, and please remain standing so everybody can see you. Dora Galvan, so don't forget him. She does constituent services. We have Maria Lopez, who does senior services. Norman Gonzalez is our executive secretary. I don't think Norma's here. I haven't seen Norma. Okay. She's in the office, but she'll take all of your calls if you call the district office. We have a few interns. We also have Paul. We have Paul Herrera. If you could please stand, Paul, who does policy and field administration. And then we have 3 interns, volunteers, and Danielle Mesa, who does constituent work. Alan Townsend, who is our research intern. And Elizabeth Barra, who does our public engagement. And so, and really thanks to all of them. And if you have any questions, please call our office, and we'll be happy to help you. We're working very hard. We've gotten, since I've been here, since June 15th, we've had over 4,000 constituent issues that we've been dealing with in really just this short amount of time. And they're the ones who do all of the work for that. So let me just move on here. What we're going to talk about, we're going to show a short video, and we'll be asking you 2 questions. And one is to identify up to 5 service areas within the proposed budget that you want to keep or increase, and identify areas where you would like to cut or fees to increase to fund your proposed increases. So this will be a little more clear as we move on. But we will give you about 20 to 25 minutes to discuss these questions at your table, and we'll have a staff member, a city staff member at your table, and in many of your tables we have one of our office staff as well that will help to facilitate, and at the end we'll have one representative from each table report back. So thank you all for being here, and we're going to watch the video first, and then the city manager will have comments? Yeah. Okay. All right. So thank you very much.
Hello, I'm City Manager Sheryl Sculley. The fiscal year 2014 proposed budget is balanced and allows the city to continue to provide quality services to the community while making the tough decisions to keep the city financially sound. The fiscal year 2014 proposed budget focuses on reducing administrative costs and prioritizes public safety, street maintenance, sidewalks, and drainage improvements. The proposed budget reflects policy direction from Mayor Castro, City Council members, and valuable input from the recent community budget hearings held in June of every quadrant of the city. This video was developed to provide a summary of the fiscal year 2014 proposed budget and to enhance understanding of city services and how they're financed. It also highlights areas where the city has been able to recommend budget cuts while maintaining quality service levels to meet community needs. Over the next few weeks, the City Council will carefully consider the proposals included in the proposed budget. Mayor Castro, City Council members, and I look forward to your input prior to the adoption of the city's budget on September 12, 2013. We appreciate your interest in the City of San Antonio's proposed fiscal year 2014 budget. We are committed to keeping San Antonio financially strong and to making San Antonio a dynamic and healthy community for you and your family.
The city is committed to continually improving services for residents of San Antonio and nurturing an environment for future growth and prosperity. Each day, the city's workforce is in the community, working to maintain city streets, protect you and your family, preserve the beauty and integrity of your neighborhoods, and offer services and programs that can enrich the quality of life for all residents. The fiscal year 2014 proposed budget is balanced as required by law and does not include a city property tax rate increase. The general fund, which is the city's largest operating fund, totals $989 million, less than 1% higher than last year. The budget is transparent and reflects City Council policy direction and valuable input from the community. In June of this year, 5 community budget hearings were held across the city to obtain service priorities from residents before the proposed budget was prepared. Following the community budget hearings, City Council annually establishes priorities, and the proposed budget recommendations reflect that input. This year, the high priority services identified are public safety, streets, sidewalks, and drainage as our city core services. Your city budget is more efficient, and since 2007, the city has reduced the general fund budget by nearly $88 million and has eliminated 1,633 civilian positions with no layoffs. During the same period, the city added 307 police officers and 167 firefighters, reflecting community and city council priorities. The FY2014 proposed budget reduces $13 million in the general fund and a total of 279 positions in all funds. In the general fund 5-year financial forecast presented in May of 2013, revenues were projected to increase at a slower pace than expenditures, necessitating adjustments to be made to the budget. The proposed FY 2014 budget presented to the City Council on August 8th is balanced and reflects the City Council priorities of no city property tax rate increase, budget reductions, and some fee increases. Included in the budget are $5 million in proposed revenue adjustments in the general fund, primarily in EMS transport fees, hazmat inspection fees, and recreational fees. The proposed budget also maintains the city's financial reserves at $89 million, or 9% of general fund appropriations. With the efficiencies added in this year's proposed budget, general fund expenses increased less than 1%. One of the top priorities recommended by the community and the City Council is public safety. The police department has applied for a Communities Organized for Public Service hiring grant that will allow for the hiring of additional police officers for 3 years. The budget includes $307,000 for a city match if the grant is awarded in October 2013 for 10 officers. $1.3 million is also included in the budget to add more police in-car video and other equipment. The fire department provides quality fire prevention and suppression, emergency medical service, and rescue operations to city residents. The proposed budget enhances these efforts by adding 3 full-time hazmat inspectors to improve inspections, as well as $3 million for the replacement of 2 hazmat trucks and other fire equipment. Improvement and maintenance of streets and sidewalks continues to be a high priority for residents. The proposed budget continues funding the Infrastructure Maintenance Program at $54 million. This amount includes $35 million to improve streets and $8.5 million for sidewalks. This is $2.5 million more than in 2013, and $4.5 of the $8.5 million will go to improve sidewalks to schools. $3.5 million will be used for drainage improvements, and the final $7 million is for pavement markings, alleyways, traffic signals, and bike facility improvements. In 2012, voters approved a $596 million bond program that includes city-wide improvements for streets, bridges, and sidewalks, drainage and flood control, parks, libraries, and public safety facilities. During fiscal year 2014, many of these projects will be designed, and approximately half will begin construction. The FY2014 budget includes $1.25 million for initiatives to revitalize and improve neighborhoods throughout San Antonio. This amount includes the Renew SA program, Ciclovia, and the Fit Pass program. Also included is funding for animal care services to continue to perform 26,500 spay-neuter surgeries and maintain a 75% live release rate. Code continues to be a priority in 2014, and no service reductions for code enforcement are recommended in the budget to ensure a continued focus on improving neighborhoods. San Antonio's senior centers provide daily health, fitness, and nutrition support to residents 60 years and older. The FY 2014 budget continues to make these services a priority and includes $1.5 million in funding for the expansion of senior centers in Districts 2, 6, and 7. The 2014 proposed budget includes $3.5 million for economic development incentives. $1.75 million is dedicated for inner-city incentives, and $1.75 million is dedicated to citywide initiatives. A key piece in developing the city's budget is making decisions to maintain a strong financial position while providing quality service delivery. The budget reduces $13 million by streamlining services, focusing on community priorities, and reducing administrative overhead. On average, non-public safety departments and the general fund reduced costs by 5%. This year's budget reductions include leveraging technology and process improvements in municipal court to reduce the time customers spend at court by 30%, while reducing costs by $914,000. The budget also reduces $1.7 million in administrative overhead, which includes a 50% reduction to travel and other line item budgets, as well as 11 administrative positions. The city will also achieve savings by transitioning services provided at the Link Centers to existing facilities, including Development Services One Stop, select libraries, and other city facilities. Service modifications totaling $1.3 million include realignment of parks landscape and sanitation maintenance schedules, and consolidating 10 open-play community centers with low attendance with other full-service centers in close proximity. The budget includes a change in the outdoor swimming pool program that is anticipated to save $310,000. This proposal expands the existing 6-day-per-week operation of outdoor swimming pools to a 7-day-per-week operation by limiting the number of days each pool is open. Delegate agency funding is proposed to be reduced by 5%, consistent with the average reduction of non-public safety city departments. Funding for Haven for Hope, however, remains at the FY 2013 budget levels. This proposal saves $630,000. Solid waste collection services are supported by a user fee collected monthly through your electric bill. The budget includes funding to support a subscription curbside recycling program for organic recycling and adding 2 additional neighborhood drop-off collection centers. An increase to the solid waste monthly rate of 50 cents is recommended in the 2014 proposed budget, raising the cost to $19.93 per month. Now that you've learned about the proposed fiscal year 2014 budget, we want to hear from you. We encourage you to attend any of the community budget hearings. There are 5 area-wide community meetings held across the city and 2 at the City Council chambers. As required by law, the city budget is scheduled to be adopted on September 12th. The city's new fiscal year begins October 1st. Visit the city's website at www.sanantonio.gov to learn more about the proposed fiscal year 2014 budget and the public input process. You can watch this video again on TVSA, the city's government access channel. As you can see, the city's fiscal year 2014 proposed budget is balanced and continues to provide the community with high-quality services and a strong financial position.
The proposed budget for 2014 is $2.3 billion, and it's actually a decrease from the 2013 budget. So what we're proposing for 2014 is actually less than 2013. The portion of the budget that's supported by taxes and what we commonly refer to as the general fund, it supports police and fire and streets and parks and recreation and health department, social service agencies, animal services, our libraries. That portion of the budget is about $1 billion, and it's less than a 1% increase in the upcoming year. So our revenue for next year is less than what our expenses are just to fund what we're doing today. So to balance the budget, which we're required by law, that means that we either increase revenue or we cut expenses. And this proposed budget does not include any reductions in police or fire. So there are no reductions in those two departments, which are the heart of what we do as a community, public safety. In fact, that portion of the budget is about 66%. That is 66.4% of our general fund budget is the police and fire departments. The balance, or the other 35%, reflects all those other things I was describing: streets and parks and libraries and health and social services and animals and the general code enforcement, all the general administration of the city. So as we make reductions, we have to focus in that other area rather than cutting police officers and firefighters. And that's based on policy direction from the City Council. Let's keep the public safety departments as they're funded today in terms of our service delivery and make reductions in other areas. They're all tough choices. It's not easy to cut. We know that in our own personal budgets. As we have to make reductions, we have to prioritize, and that's really what the City Council does. So there is no property tax rate increase proposed in this budget. We are recommending a few increases in fees, primarily in our emergency medical services transport expenses. So EMS charges are being recommended to increase a little bit in this budget. There are some parks and recreation fee increases in this budget. Nobody likes any kind of increase, but we must balance it. So there's a combination of a few fee increases, but also about $14 million worth of cuts in the budget. And we've tried to focus on administrative reductions within the budget as opposed to any direct service delivery to the community. We've actually reduced the city budget by $77 million over the past 7 years, and we've cut 1,354 civilian positions during that time frame. We haven't laid anybody off, so don't confuse. We're cutting positions with layoffs. We've been able to do that over the past 7 years without any layoffs by managing our attrition, keeping positions vacant in areas where we know we will continue to fund them as we cut positions in other areas and move our employees around. So these are tough times in terms of how we manage the city's resources, but we count on you to tell us what's most important to you. What's most important to fund within the budget. So if you would take the next 20 minutes to discuss that at your table, and also identify for us what areas are you willing to see reductions. If we have to make cuts, what are you willing to do without in terms of our city services? And we recognize these are tough decisions to make, but we'd like your input so that we can share that with the rest of the council, take it into consideration as we deliberate about this budget, because we're required by law to maintain a balanced budget, and then to adopt the budget by September 12th of this year. So just about a month from now, because we're required by city charter to adopt the budget in September. So we have a staff member at each of the tables. I'd like them to just quickly identify themselves, the person at the table that's representing our city staff. Two of our assistant city managers are here, Gloria Hurtado and Carlos Contreras. Our budget director, Maria Villagomez, is here tonight, and a number of the budget staff. So at each of the tables, and David, why don't you start? David McCary.
Good afternoon. I'm David McCary. I'm the Solid Waste Management Director. I'm the one they pay to talk trash to you. But thank you for having us.
Okay. Staff at each of the tables. Oh, yep.
How you doing? Anthony Trevino with the San Antonio Police Department. I'm the Deputy Chief and Chief of Staff of the department.
Wanda.
Hi, Wanda Hurd with Human Resources. I'm the City Director of Human Resources.
Edward Gonzales, I'm the Assistant Director for the Human Services Department.
Vance Mead, I'm the Assistant Chief of Information Services for the Fire Department.
Kathy Davis, I'm the Director for Animal Care Services, and we have a great adoption event this weekend, so if you're looking for a pet, come on out.
Center table, Anthony. Yep.
Anthony Trudeloy, Assistant Director of Public Works.
Hi, Mike Shannon from the Development Services, Assistant Director, also of Code Enforcement.
Debbie.
Hi, I'm Debbie Sitter, Assistant Director for the Capital Improvements Management Services.
So Debbie's department is in charge of building all the bond projects that we have throughout the city. Ramiro?
Yes, I'm Ramiro Salazar, Director of the San Antonio.
Xavier Rutia, Parks and Recreation Director.
Okay, and I see our fire chief in the back, Charles Hood, and a number of other budget staff that are here as resources. With budget staff, just wave your hand, and PIO staff, so we have other staff here as resources to help us facilitate tonight. So let's get started. Let's have a dialogue with each of the tables, and then we'll ask you to report out after 20 or 25 minutes, maybe a little after 7 o'clock, so that we can share the ideas from each of the tables.
We'll figure it out before tomorrow. Good, thank you. No, all
Is everyone just about wrapped up on their lists of priorities and areas where you think we can make reductions? Who would like to kick it off? Which table would like to begin? Okay. Mike Shannon's table wants to begin. We like that. If we could have everyone's attention, we're going to hear from one of the tables in the back about what's most important.
City staffer? All right.
Whoever the table votes for.
All right, they'd like me to announce their results, if that's all right.
Okay.
Yeah, if you could hold that for me.
Thanks, Chris.
All right, well, we're at table 11. We had a lot of good discussion, and let's talk about the increased priorities that we had come up with. You talked a little bit about ambulance EMS fees. They felt that there should be more ambulance EMS services with lower fees. So clearly, the proposed fee increased from towards $800 per trip. They'd like to see the other direction. More sidewalks and street repairs generally throughout the city was a key priority for them. A specific project, there are some travel improvements at the Zarzamora and Frio intersection, some sort of under or overpass because of the train issue, I think there. You're having some issues, train connection there. So also more and better or better drainage infrastructure throughout the city was a high priority. And I think we had 6 here. We must have, I know. Yeah, more senior services. That was a big table discussion in the forms of fee waivers, better care facilities and centers, and public transportation. And I think number 6 was more garbage pickup days. So that was 5/6 priorities. And to go to the reductions or the lower priorities, animal care services, spay and neutering program, really spending city dollars on that. What they felt was maybe harsher penalties and increased fees for violators to help offset the cost there rather than tax dollars. Reducing incentives for developers, whether it be tax incentives or any type of development incentives. They'd like to see reductions there. They were very adamant. they were very adamant that police and fire should remain very high, top priority. However, they felt that lower salaries for police and fire should be part of, if not this budget, the next collective bargaining. Reduction to Parks and Rec budget to help offset some of the first page items. And this was a reduction, but it was lower parking meter fees. So that was, they were looking for a reduction there. So that was their list. Great job, Table 11.
All right, thank you. Okay. Table 4, Pat.
Should I go over here?
I'll hold it.
Okay. So for Table 4, our priorities were services for kids. You know, we want to make sure we have access to libraries and parks, and we want longer pool hours, definitely. How about some night swimming? I would love night swimming, right? I know, I love it. Anyways, that's right, at night, right, with all the lights and everything. Anyways, safety at home is a big priority for us. We're very concerned about the proposed cutting of CRT positions, the crisis response teams out of the San Antonio Police Department. Nobody wants to see that happen. Those people provide an excellent service for families living with family violence, and as you all well know, family violence is a serious issue in our community, and it also then gets transferred onto our next generation, which is our kids. So no cutting of CRTs, right? We want to continue and enhance our street improvements, and we want a better awareness of city services. We could do a little bit better at making sure our citizens know about what's available in terms of our city services. And to bring in some money, we'd like to see an increase in building permit fees, especially for the commercial ones. And we'd like to cut executive performance pay. And we'd like to, yay, right? And we also need to consider raising property taxes by 1 cent, is what was brought up at our table. And the numbers on that are that on a typical homestead of $128,000, that would be a cost of like about $12 per year. And so that's what we're looking at. And, oh, it would generate $7 million per year. $7 million per year. And then no more tax abatements, because we give away a lot of our taxes in those abatements, and sometimes those abatements, those people that, you know, get those abatements, they don't come through with the promises that they make to us, and so we need to be a lot more stringent about making sure that we don't give away any more tax abatements. All right, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, which table is next here? Who wants to volunteer next? Okay, Wanda, your table? Who's speaking? Our Girl Scouts. Let's give them a round of applause for attending tonight.
Good evening, I'm Serena Medina, and this is Clarissa Medina, and tonight we're representing Table 2 and the Girl Scouts of Southwest Texas. Our table discussion went a lot around keeping parks and pools, because as someone young, I know that I like going to the park, I know I like going to pools, and I know other young people like to do that. And it also keeps us out of trouble, it keeps us occupied and doing something else. That leads into programs for youth and seniors, like leadership programs, because I'm pretty sure if we did not have the Girl Scouts, or we did not fund the Girl Scouts, I would not be able to get up here and speak in front of all of you tonight. So keep programs for leadership, keep programs to help our youth, and keep programs to keep our seniors occupied, because I know that my grandparents, they don't always have everything to do, and I know I can't always go over to their house, so keep them occupied that way, or have them make friends at places like this. We also said that we would like to keep our regular library hours and keep funding our libraries. We were saying that if we want all of this to happen, then we would be willing to raise our taxes a little because that goes into more sacrifice and into saying, okay, well, if I want this to be done, well, I don't mind giving an extra dollar or an extra anything to have something to occupy me with. It will better our community too. We also said that we want to see an increase in sidewalks because we see children walking to school and there's not a sidewalk there and they're walking in the mud when it rains or it's a very dangerous place to walk in. Accidents happen and we can prevent those by putting sidewalks or putting something simple there. And we would like to set that as a priority because that is something that needs to get done. We also said that we would like more support for programs with women and children because if we have more clinics or more things like that, those women, those children can get treated and we can have a better, healthier community, which is CRT programs. And we said, we did not say we wanted to cut anything. We said we would like to reallocate things. So we would like to reallocate the Briscoe Fund, which is a museum opening up. But it isn't open yet, so don't go. No, I'm kidding. And economic development, if we could take a little money, put it up here, that'd be great. And just to reallocate some funds to see how we could keep the things we want to keep. And that's it.
So sidewalks have been mentioned twice now, and this budget includes $8.5 million to put sidewalks in our neighborhoods. And this year's budget had $6 million, so it's an increase that's proposed of $2.5 million, with more than half of that going into a sidewalks to schools program that is adding sidewalks in the community, specifically near elementary schools and middle schools, so that kids have a safe place to walk. Okay, next table. Ramiro's table.
Hi, at table 14, our funding priorities are the library, including the Texana Library, the bookmobile, and maintaining the current library hours. We're also interested in maintaining funding for the delegate agencies. We've seen a lot of cuts for that over the years, and we'd like to see that those agencies that provide important services don't get further cuts. We would like to see the domestic violence program helped in any way, that, particularly in terms of the crisis response team. Animal care services is also a priority for table 14, and in particular, we would like to see more staff. And finally, code compliance was a priority for table 14. Things that are not priority included fees to consultants, Center City, and additional funding for the Whitty Museum.
All right, thank you. Next table.
Where? Well, for improvements, we had more code compliance officers, more police patrols, more enforcement of animal control, stronger ethics enforcement, more library and pool hours, and to create a revenue stream, example would be parking lots, and then more brush pickups. This is some of the ones that we had come about. And for reductions, we also agree on cutting tax abatements, budget staff work, recycle, pickup, maybe going to a drop point, Mr. Carey. Transportation services, such as Primo, they feel it's a little limited. And Fiesta expenses. It's a big bash we put on every year, and to what expense? Also a reduction in the increasing fees for convention facilities to draw in some monies. That's table 5.
Thank you. Okay, David's table back there. Yep.
Good evening. My name is Rodrigo Rendon. I'm with the COPS Metro, St. Timothy's. And in our table, we discussed an increase, maintain child care and health safety for the kids. That's always our top priority. And also, second, increase service level for animal care services to eliminate our stray animal population. It's all over the city, and something needs to be done about that. Also, we supported the delegate agencies to increase funding for child, youth, and senior services by grants or other funding to include the formerly incarcerated to give them a chance, to do something. And number 4, continued support for fire and police, no cuts, with prioritized staffing on districts of need like District 5 or any others of the city where police needs to be there, but sometimes they're absent somewhere else attending to their duties. 5, support economic development in District 5. And we went a little bit more, 6, increase support for parks in our city, especially District 5 and other areas of the city. That's for 5. And then we were so talking about the increases that we ran out of time on the decreases, but one of them was reduce marketing in alleys, the signs, bike facilities, and also 2 was to limit public investment in areas of infrastructure. Just see how much could be spent. The less, the better. Thank you.
Okay, Xavier,
So we had a lot of the same similar items. Had a very young table. It'll record. Okay. Had a very young table. So again, the delegate agencies, they really felt that those should either be maintained or increased around the areas of workforce development, education, and youth development. And again, centered on that youth component, that immunizations within the health department should be maintained. Library hours, not necessarily increasing the number of libraries, but making sure that the library hours of the existing facilities increase. Community centers to maintain existing, and then animal care on specifically the spay-neuter component to maintain that. They really said they've seen an impact in their neighborhoods and the number of strays that they see on a regular basis, and they really feel that the spay-neuter has had the impact on that as opposed to just picking up the animal. Then looking at items to redirect or cut, they weren't saying to cut the number of senior centers, but they said that the number of senior centers should match demand. So not just build additional senior centers, but make sure that the number of senior centers we have match really the need or the demand for those centers. The other area was in the after-school programming, that they feel that that funding should really be dictated by performance and not just because an agency asks for funds, but that they are performing and therefore that's how they are awarded. And then the last area they had was in streets, that they feel that that the repairs should just be prioritized as an as-needed basis, and that could be a potential area to redirect to fund some of the other areas they felt were higher priority. That's it, right, guys? Yeah, that's it.
Great.
Thank you. We discussed economic development in our area along the Lone Star Brewery area. We'd like to relocate industrial business, in particular Newell Recycling, so that we can proceed with the Lone Star Community Plan project. Libraries, we need a library. We don't have a library. We used to have a library, but it was transferred over to the Police and Firemen Fund, and so our that was taken over. So we don't have a library. We would like a library in our area. The closest to our area is Mission Drive-In area, Collins Garden, or the Pan Am. So that's too far away. Support for Quest as a delegate agency. Streets and sidewalks. Most of the streets and sidewalks in our community don't need the grading and the sloping and all that work. It's already been done. All we need are sidewalks and curbs. So most of our streets were graded during the Dowdy Street project, and so all we need are straight sidewalks and curbs. We would like to see sunshade over the Roosevelt Park pool and the seating area. You know, all our kids get toasted there, and with the Cancer Society, you know, we need to protect our kids. Increase in safe officers. We have an excellent rapport with our safe officer, Robert Esquivel. But we need more safe officers. It seems like, you know, when they're off, and we need somebody in their place when they're off. So we'd like to have them all the time because they do such good work. And I'd like to see some type of program initiated to track the dumping of all these tires in our community. They're in the rivers, they're in the neighborhoods, all this illegal dumping. And just like you have a state inspection process where you can come and track and there's checks and balances in place, I'd like the state or the city to be able to enforce some type of program to where these tires, once they leave, whoever's going to pick them up and dump them, and they're supposed to take them to the dump site, then there should be some checks and balances in tracking those tires. And also, maybe you should do a study of the community before you approve any more tire companies, because we're overrun. Also, the lowest priorities that we'd like to maybe move some funds would be the one-time projects, the transfers, and no tax abatements for corporations with more than 100 employees. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have a couple more tables. Yes?
So we had a long discussion. It involved mostly increasing money to services like parks. We need more covered areas, children's playgrounds, and to keep all of our rec centers. Also, we talked about libraries. We need more hours. We don't want any cuts. We don't want to lose our bookmobile. And senior centers were third on our list. We want more activities for them, more funding to get those activities to happen, and maybe even longer hours. And delegate agencies was also on our list. We don't want to lose any funding for them. If we can increase them or maintain them, that'd be good. Animal care services, we'd like more spay services, and the mobile SNAP truck, I think, is out of commission. So we'd like to keep them funded and have more locations. And for cuts, we talked about police and fire has a really big piece of the pie. That's on page 2 of this magazine. And so we'd like to also look at economic development incentives being reduced, especially downtown tax abatements. Most developers downtown are now getting 15-year tax abatements as opposed to what used to be a 10-year tax abatement. And so that means that they'll probably be leaving us after that time's up. Also, Center City and Fiesta expenses weren't really important, I don't think. And then we also said salary cuts to top administrators, but our facilitator didn't write that.
Thanks a lot. Okay.
Okay, I'm the speaker
Debbie.
for table number 10. The priorities were police and fire, streets and sidewalks and drainage, stray animals and animal care services, and code compliance. Got to keep all of those levels high. Some suggestions were to cut streetcars, renegotiate the police and fire contracts to save some money in that big area, city manager's salary.
Hey, now.
CPS salaries in the upper management so that we can get more money back from CPS. Increase fines and collections, fines for animal cruelty, penalties for delinquent taxes, permits, code violations, traffic tickets, sell land when people don't pay their taxes or don't pay their the demolition fees, and then junkyards, add to the fees for junkyards.
Thank you. Okay, who is it? Are you the save the best for last here? Okay.
Thank you. At our table, table number 1, we discussed public safety as being number 1, especially with the family violence programs. We need to bolster that. We don't need to take away. We need to bolster that. We need more people there. I, for one, have been involved helping others who could not help themselves. So that's important. We talk about education at our table because there is a lot of the dropout rate is out there. There's a lot of people just hanging out there who thought it was cool to drop out. They had kids. They have nowhere to go. They don't have a family to, that's going to help them out. So, with education, we should have workforce programs like apprenticeship programs. We need plumbers, sheet metal workers, electricians. We need horticulture, gardeners. We need to help them so that they can go to school half a day, work half a day, be off on the weekends, spend time with their families, and at the end of the 2-year contract that they sign, they'll have a 2-year degree, they'll have experience, and they'll have a job waiting for them. Why this has not been done, I don't know, but we need to do that. Also, we talked about number 3, senior citizens. I'm a senior, by the way, and it feels good to have come this far. Okay, here's the problem with the senior citizen program. We used to have like little outposts in the neighborhood. That was working well. But then someone decided, you know what? Let's shut down those little outlets and let's come up to a big one like this. Well, that's great. The only thing is, most seniors don't drive. Most seniors have to take 2 or 3 buses to get somewhere. And if they're riding, if they have a cane or a walker, it's awfully hard to ride to be a bus. I'm sorry. I try to get on one with a wheelchair, and it's awfully hard for me. That was 2 years ago. Also, the seniors, while the rates are increased with CPS and SAWS, so that they can give out these infinite bonuses that they so much deserve, I'm not being negative. This is a fact, and it's undisputable. It makes me fire engine red to think that these guys here, and the council approves this, but who needs to help the most? The senior citizens, because they're on a fixed income. They can't get out any more money that they don't have. And for me, we have a moral obligation to rectify the way things are right now. We need to have the seniors have a level monthly bill so that they will not be affected any more than what they are. Food prices are going up. Utilities are going up, right? So how are they going to pay if they don't have a stabilized level of billing? That's just an idea, everybody. Also, we talked about, at our table, we talked about increasing the arts program for the districts. I, for one, I can't sing, I can't play an instrument, and I can't draw, but I admire those that can. And we need to encourage the arts programs in all the districts. We need more funding for them because what it does, it gives the kids, the young adults, self-esteem, and eliminates a lot of problems in the future. It's just like pre-K for SA, you know what I mean? It's down the road, it's going to pay off, not now, okay? Now we talk about eliminating or at least cutting back on something. Some of you may not like this, but it's a fact and it's undisputable. Remember that. We have too much redundancy, way too much redundancy. It's okay to do one thing once or twice, have a backup plan. But when you have 2 and 3 times a backup plan, you're actually taking resources that could be used somewhere else. For example, Cafe College. You have the universities. You have the Alamo Community College District doing the same thing. Project Quest. I love you guys. You do the same thing. So why should we have Cafe College? Another blown opportunity to take money and invest it in the community. Okay? We talked about eliminating the fan program. That's like me giving somebody who's blind, how do I say it? Somebody who's not able to drive a brand new car. What good does it do me to give him a brand new car if he can't drive? That's what the fan program does. All it does is to give them a fan, but they can't afford the utility bill. So isn't that a little bit uncommon? Okay? We talk about reviewing the food programs at Haven for Hope. The city provides funding for them. The Sam's Ministry, the senior citizen centers. And what happens is a lot of the food is not healthy. If you're a diabetic and you're being fed regular pasta, guess what? Your sugar level is going to go up. I know, I'm one. Okay? So we need to have us review the food programs and make sure that we're getting the best bang for our buck. Okay? We need to eliminate the trolley system. $40 million a mile on one route alone is way too much. It's excessive. And I don't think anybody here is going to ride in it because, I mean, we live here. Okay? So eliminate the trolleys. Real estate developments. There are too many buildings that are being vacated. It's hard to get to. Then we're having all these lofts being built, and people cannot afford it. I, for one, will never be living downtown in a loft. I like where I live. You know, it's simple, quaint. I live in a dead-end street, but it's mine, okay? So that's what we talked about. We need to somehow, when we give out these tax abatements, hold the people accountable. Let us not be giving away the house and the farm. Thank you.
Okay, so what we do with all the comments we received tonight is assemble them, and we'll have, this is the first of 5 hearings that we're having out in the community, and then we'll have 2 more public hearings at the council chambers. But we gather these comments and we share them with all of the council members, so they'll see the comments from all the meetings. A couple of comments. Several of you mentioned services for seniors. This proposed budget does include the expansion of 3 senior centers in the city and in 3 different locations. Also, just a comment about those seniors who are on fixed income. There is, of course, as you seniors know, the homestead exemption, and the city forgoes $31 million annually because of the exemption. So there are many people who don't pay city property taxes because of that exemption. So we forego that for seniors. If you're over 65, the first $65,000 of value of your home is exempt from city property taxes, and also exemptions for disabled veterans. So I just want to note that and remind you, if you haven't, if you're a senior, if you're 65 or older and you haven't applied for that exemption, make sure that you do that. Okay, so
like all the other fees that are being added as a revenue source, like EMS, use of parks, I mean, that's for the regressive tax that would affect seniors and anybody that's low income. So I guess those are concerns that you're.
yeah, oh yeah, we're hearing that. But I just wanted to say that, yeah, we do have, and there are thousands of people who receive those benefits, and that's a good thing for those who are on fixed income. That's great. You know, it's, as you can see, it's hard, isn't it? And we hear a variety of comments from those who are here tonight. These are tough choices, but our revenues are increasing at about 2.4%, and our expenses are going up 3.5%. And public safety is 64% of the budget this year. Next year it'll be 66.5%. So if we're not going to cut police and fire, that leaves just that other 35% for all the reductions. And these are tough decisions for city council members to deliberate, to consider all of your input, and then make those tough choices. It's not easy. But we take all your suggestions into consideration. We want to thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for participating. And we invite you to come to any of the other meetings if you'd like to do that. We'll be meeting tomorrow night, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of this week, and then again next week on Tuesday. So thank you for being here tonight. We appreciate your input.
So we're here with Councilwoman Shirley Gonzales, and this is your very first, your inaugural budget session. What did you learn today?
Well, it was really great hearing from constituents, getting a little feedback from different groups. We heard a lot of sort of what we would expect. We want to continue funding for our parks and for our libraries. We want to continue funding for our delegate agencies. And for our parks and for our streets and our sidewalks. Those are always the priorities. Animal care services is a big priority, especially here in this area and in this district. And the things that always are a little bit controversial have to do with executive pay, have to do with the amount of pay that goes out to police and fire. And those are the things that always raise red flags in our community.
I seem to recall that during your campaign you made a very big deal about the safety of children walking to school.
It is, and there is some part of the budget that has to do with sidewalks, especially walking to school. I'm a big fan of walkability and particularly supportive of our community that really is a community that's walkable, and we want to maintain that. And part of that would include sidewalks and room for bicycles and room for alternative forms of transportation, particularly public transportation.
Thank you. Thank you very much for taking the time. I really appreciate it. And we'll find a way to make sure that you can let your constituents know where to go replay the video on all of this so that they can help make the decisions.
Thank you. Yeah, we've got 4 more budget sessions coming, so asking everybody to please participate. Thank you.